Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gretchen and today I am doing some reviews for the Aspen Words Literary Prize. If you follow my channel, you will know that this is the second year that I am following this prize, but this is the first year that I'm actually doing exclusive or specific content for it. I only found out about this prize in 2024 and I read all but one of the books from that year's Longlist, and I was really impressed by the quality of those books, so I was really excited and anxiously awaiting them to release the Longlist for 2025, or technically it's the 2026 prize, but the Longlist was released in 2025. But I was really looking forward to it because there were so many great books that I read from that previous Longlist that I knew that this was going to be a very high quality prize and one that I would be interested in following for a very long time. This year has been no exception. I have read most of the books from this year's Longlist and I'm really excited to talk about some of them. This is a book prize that has 15 longlisted titles, so I don't plan on doing all of the reviews in one video because that would just be way too long. So I will break it down a little bit, but I have been kind of hoarding these book reviews for a while because I wanted to make sure that I grouped them all together. I will put a link of this book prize in the description of the video in case you're interested in learning more about what this book prize stands for. But just to give you a little taste, the goal of this prize is to highlight books that illuminate vital contemporary issues and demonstrate the transformative power of literature on thought and culture. As I mentioned, I will put that link below, but I also wanted to just mention some of the past winners in case you're trying to get a flavor for the prize. So last year we had Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange, Enter Ghosts by Isabella Hamad was also a past winner, and The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich. So lots of great books that have won this prize. And not only have the winners been great, but the long lists have been top tier. So I encourage you to not only look at this year's long list, but go back and look at the history of the prize. It's only been around, I think, since 2018. So it's a fairly new prize, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. And I would really like to shed some light on this because I think they're doing great work. And so far in my experience with this prize, it has shown me or introduced me to a lot of great books that otherwise would not have been on my radar. So I'm really thankful for this prize for that reason alone. The book prize actually also gets something else right, which is it covers a submission date range of an entire calendar year. So from January 1st to December 31st. So we don't have those weird overlaps and trying to figure out what the submission dates are. They are a calendar year. And then also the thing I love the most is that they give us ample time to read them. This particular year, the Longlist was announced on November 13th. The shortlist is going to be announced, I believe, on, March 11th, and then the winner will be announced on April 23rd. So lots of time. I have read most of the Longlist at this point. There are 2 books that I have yet to finish, but I'm halfway through one of them. So I'm not gonna, like I said, go through all of them today, and I will break this down into a couple of videos, but let's go ahead and dive into the first grouping. So the first book that I want to talk about is Endling by Maria Reva, and this was the one that I was the most excited to see make it on to the long list. As you may know, this was one of my favorite reads from 2025, and I was so bummed when it didn't make it further in the Booker Prize. I thought that it deserved to at least make it on to the short list, and I was so glad to see that it has another shot at a literary prize. It was a book that I thought was extremely inventive, and it is one that for me, it just continued to get better and better as the pages went on. I was so impressed with this book. This book is inventive and it's darkly comedic, and it is one that weaves a fictional story with autofiction about the author's life. The author is Ukrainian, but she also currently lives in Canada, and what unfolds is her reaction and her response as she is faced with the start of the war in Ukraine, where she actively had family there, and how she was processing it. And I thought it was brilliant, and like I said, I'm so glad to see that it has another chance at a literary prize, and also that it's getting a little more exposure and hopefully can get into the hands of more readers, because like I said, I love this book and I would love to see more people reading it. The next book was another one that I had already read and talked about on my channel, and that is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy. This book was one of my anticipated reads for 2025 because I am a big fan of this author. I enjoyed both of her previous books, Migrations and Once There Were Wolves, and I knew that this was going to be a book that I would pick up regardless. Although I still think that Once There Were Wolves is my favorite of hers still, I think that this book is going to have a wider appeal to more readers. This book to me had more of a thriller-like quality, and there was a lot of action, but it also felt very emotional and even sentimental to me. This book follows the story of a family consisting of a widower father. He is on this remote island with his 3 children, and their sole purpose for being there is to protect a seed bank. And one day this mysterious woman washes up on the shore, and this sets a whole bunch of drama into motion. This was a very fast-paced read, and it was one that managed to keep me entertained from start to finish. And like I said, although I think that I vibed better with her other books, this was still a very entertaining read for me, and it was definitely worth a read. The next book that I want to talk about is A Family Matter by Claire Lynch, and this is another one of my favorite reads from 2025. And prior to the Aspen Words Longlist being announced, I had not heard of this book, and this is exactly why I love to explore book prize longlists. If not for this prize, I could have completely missed out on this gem. From the title of this book, you can probably guess that it revolves around a family drama, but this one caught me off guard because it tackled subjects that I had never read about before. We have an elderly father that is dying. His name is Heron, and he tells his daughter Maggie something about her mother. Her mother's name was Dawn, and Dawn abandoned the family when Maggie was very young. And this new knowledge that Maggie finds out uncovers a lot of painful secrets and offers Maggie a new perspective on why Dawn decided that she had to leave the family. This book focuses on family law and parental rights in a time of unjustified hate and intolerance in the UK, and I thought it was a beautiful book. It was well written, it was compact, but it was filled with emotion, and it's one that I won't forget about for a very long time. And it's also one that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, and I would love for more people to pick this one up. I don't think that you would be disappointed. It was a lovely story, and I learned a lot from it, and it was just a great book in general. Moving on to the true story of Raja the Gullible and his mother by Rabbi Alameddine. If I'm remembering correctly, I was actually in the middle of reading this book when they announced announced the long list for this prize. I was reading it because it was shortlisted for the National Book Award, and it actually won that prize. So I was ahead of the schedule for once. This book follows our main character. His name is Raja, and he is a gay Lebanese man. He is also a teacher of philosophy, and this book follows us through several decades of his life, and we learn all about his life. And not only are we learning about him, but we're also learning about his mother along the way and the relationship that they have with each other. Now, this book was very interesting for several reasons, but one of the things that sticks out the most to me is the way that the timeline was set up. This is a non-linear story, so we're learning all of these stories about the main characters, but they don't go in a chronological order. We're kind of all over the place, and normally if I knew that about a book going in, I would worry that it would be jarring and feel disconnected, but it actually worked, and I never felt lost. I always felt like there was a good flow to the book, and I really enjoyed it. I will also say, though, that this book was tough to read at times, not because I found it to be a chore, but there were a lot of hardships that Raja and his family had to go through. It ranged from war to financial ruin to family illness, and there was also an extremely toxic relationship that Raja was in that we learned about. So there was a lot of stuff crammed into this book, but each of it had a proper place in the story. It didn't feel out of place, and it didn't feel like it was gratuitous or anything like that. It really did feel cohesive. I was happy to see this book make the long list. Obviously, it was one less book that I had to read, and it is a worthy book, but I can see it making the short list, but I would really hope that because it did win the National Book Award, that there will be another book that gets to take this prize, but we will see. But regardless, it is a worthy book. I can definitely see why it made this long list, and if you haven't picked it up and you're interested in reading it, I think you should give it a chance because I think you might enjoy it as well. And then the last book that I will review for today or talk about is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. Now, of all the books that made the long list, I have to be honest and say that this one was the most surprising. Not because I think it's a bad book. I don't think that at all. I just think that this book has a raw grittiness to it, and it truly fits the whole thriller, suspense, crime drama genre, which doesn't always tend to have literary qualities to it. So I was very surprised to see that. But in Cosby's defense, that is what I love about him as an author, is he does have that literary element. He does crime and suspense very well, but this is a well-written book, and he definitely knows his craft, and he is really good at writing a suspenseful and engaging story without taking it too over the top, and you can tell that he is a high-quality writer. I love how brilliantly he is able to write morally gray characters that still manage to be ones that you cheer for, and when they're doing things that are questionable, it's usually for the greater good or for the love of a family member or trying to right some wrong or injustice that has been done to the characters. This book follows a Black family. We have Roman. He is a wealthy financial advisor. He is living apart from his family. He's out of state. He is estranged from them. He finds out that his father has passed away under mysterious circumstances, and everything is quite suspicious. He returns home to take over or help take over the family business, which is a crematorium, and he also learns in the process that his brother is in over his head with some debt, and he is running with the wrong crowds. So the story takes off from there, and there is a lot of stuff and drama that unfolds in this story. This story is violent, it's disturbing at times, it's very fast-paced, and it has a twisty plot, which I really appreciate about Cosby's novels as well. I think if you're a fan of any of his books and you have yet to read this one, give it a go. I think it's going to be worth your while. I will say that even though I did enjoy this book, my favorite of his is still Razorblade Tears, but this was still a solid read, and I will always set aside some time to read any of S.A. Cosby's new books that come out in the future. So that is it for now. I will keep these videos for this prize to 5 book reviews per video. I'm actively making my notes for the next one, so you should see that one out within the next week or so. I can't remember if I mentioned there are still 2 books that I have yet to finish. I am actively about halfway through one of them, and then the last one that I have to read is fairly short, so I should be done with the long list in its entirety very soon. Also remember that the short list isn't being announced until March 11th, so there is still time if you want to read any of the books, and then ultimately if you prefer to wait for the short list to be announced before picking any of them up, the winner isn't going to be announced until April 23rd. So we still have some time with this prize. Thank you so much for joining me today, and until we read again, bye!